All right, so this has been a pretty solid night of basketball so far. We had two 50-point games, one coming from Giannis Antetokounmpo and the other coming from none other than Victor Wembanyama. I don't want to spam Victor Wembanyama videos on my channel, but it's hard to not talk about him, especially considering the fact that he is in year two. And in my opinion, he is one of the must-see athletes, not just in basketball, but across sports. He is an absolute anomaly, had one of the best rookie seasons we have ever seen. And the conversation this particular season so far is that Victor Wembanyama regressed since his rookie year. And if you look at the numbers, they do suggest that. But the thing is, it is a very, very early season. Way too early to overreact. There are a lot of players right now who on one side of the fence are probably putting up numbers that we know they won't be putting up for the entirety of the season, right? Some of their numbers and statistics aren't going to be sustainable the entire way through. And on the other side of the fence, we have some guys who have gotten off to some pretty slow starts. So looking specifically at Tyrese Halliburton, he has gotten off to a pretty rough start this season, but you would hope and probably put some good money on the fact that there's going to be some regression to the mean. At some point, he is going to get back to putting up those all-star caliber numbers and efficiency that we're used to seeing from him, that we saw from him over the last couple of seasons where he was an all-star. That's seeping over here to Victor Wembanyama. As I said, the numbers have not been amazing so far this season. The percentages have not been great, especially from three. But games like tonight remind us that it is ridiculous to overreact so early into the season. It is one of the best games of his career so far. I'm not going to say the best, considering that I've seen him do amazing stuff against more comp. He played against my Washington Wizards, who right now are in the definition of a rebuild. This team right now is not built to win games at all. Understandable, right? Right now they are rebuilding and trying to develop their guys, but this was a pretty low comp matchup. We've seen Wembanyama do some more impressive things against better comp and better players that played closer to his position. We saw him have amazing games last season against Kevin Durant, an amazing game against Giannis Antetokounmpo. We've seen him do some amazing games against some superstar level players. I'm not going to say this was the best Victor Wembanyama game we have seen so far, but it was pretty damn good. I think the first thing that's so impressive about Victor Wembanyama is the confidence in his shooting ability and how good the jump shot looks. Wemby's mechanics on his jump shot are almost perfect. It is a very smooth release. He gets right into his shot. Obviously, it is virtually unblockable because of how tall he is, and he does get some pretty solid elevation on it. The release point is high enough. He has so much confidence in that jump shot, and we've seen it so far this season. He's up, I think, about 2 attempts from three relative to last season. I think last season he was about 5.5 attempts from downtown. This season, he is up to about 7.5. There could be some critique there, right? You're kind of wondering, why is this guy 7'4", taking 7 3-pointers per game? Shouldn't he spend a little bit more of his time either in the mid-range area or operating as a pick-and-roll guy? I get it, but his perimeter shooting is so good, defenses have to respect it, and he's been able to do it in a number of different ways. This season, we've seen him do some off the dribble. We've seen him operate kind of in these pick-and-pop scenarios, working off of Chris Paul, saw that in this game particularly, or just slipping into space off of certain actions. But he consistently gets to that shot. He's so confident getting into it. Maybe sometimes he'll kind of step up in semi-transition and knock it down. And these are also deep range looks. These aren't shots right at three-point line. A lot of times he's shooting it from maybe a couple of feet out from there. We've seen him make a logo shot or two over the course of his career. Just his confidence and his trust in his three-point shot as a 7'4" guy is one of the most unique things we've ever seen in NBA history. Not just him also, but you have to give credit to guys who kind of paved the way for that. Another name I'm thinking about is Kristaps Porzingis, one of the most lethal shooting big men the game has ever seen. We saw what he was able to do in the NBA Finals last year when he was on the court for the Celtics. He and Wemby are very similar with how confident they are and how dangerous they are from a three-point shooting perspective. They trust their jump shot. They can get to that shot on such a consistent basis. And with Wemby and even Porzingis as well, if you want to kind of get all up in them and try to take away their space from the three-point line, they have this ability to do things off the dribble. So that's what makes Vic so dangerous is the play doesn't stop after the closeout. He can do things like attack you off the dribble, get into a move, and kind of go from there. Just an amazing threat from a scoring standpoint. Love how confident he is in his jumper. And like I said, he's one of those guys where the percentages don't tell the entire story. So Luka is very similar. And I know I'm making a lot of comparisons here, but Luka Doncic is very similar because there were years where Luka was very inefficient from three. He didn't have a really, really efficient three-point shooting season until last season. So the numbers and the percentages didn't totally add up, but we always knew that he was a much better shooter than the percentages suggested. The eye test, Luka passed the eye test as a shooter. I know that kind of sounds crazy, right? You're like, well, if he's that great of a shooter, then why would the percentages be that bad? But it makes sense, right? That's the kind of the same thing here with Wembanyama is, yes, the percentages this season have not been great. I think coming into this game, he may have been in the low 30s, high 20s from the three-point line, but the percentages do not tell the whole story. He is a much better shooter than what the percentages suggest. There is a reason as to why he keeps getting them up. He's comfortable, and we see it in games today, knocks down 8 of them from the three-point line. Now, like I said, they did play a team that is not good right now, and so at a certain point, it was kind of like, are the Wizards going to do anything differently to try to contain him from out there? It got to that point in the game, but still, amazing performance there from Vic. If you're into like those weirdly specific stats, he is the youngest player in NBA history with 50 plus points, 5 plus three-pointers, and 2 plus blocks in a game. What makes that so unique is 2 of these stats don't really match up well. The 5 plus threes and 2 plus blocks. You're not supposed to see stuff like that. There aren't too many players in NBA history who can have a game where they're knocking down 5 plus three-pointers and 2 plus blocks. The 2 plus blocks suggest that you are an elite level big man defender down low, and the 5 plus three-pointers suggest that you are an elite perimeter shooter, usually either a point guard, shooting guard, or a wing. Maybe you may be able to throw a power forward in there here and there, but that's what's unique about that stat line is 2 of those stats that I named have no business mixing in with each other. You should not have a guy knocking down 5 plus three-pointers in a game and also blocking more than 2 shots. One of those is more of a perimeter player statistic, and the other is more of a big man down low player statistic. That's what makes this particular stat line so unique. I know it's oddly specific, and a lot of times ESPN or these networks will come up with these really weird specific stat lines, but the reason behind it is you look at these stat lines and you're like, this guy can do both this and he can also do this. He can knock down these shots from deep range, and he can also be a dominant defensive player down low. One suggests that you are an amazing big man. The other suggests that you are an amazing shooter. Generally, throughout NBA history, those 2 things don't mix super well. Usually you're getting one of those 2. You're either going to get the 5 plus threes or you're going to get the 2 plus blocks. Rarely is there a mix-up in there. There are only a number of players in NBA history who can put up numbers like that. And quite frankly, Vic is going to be one of those guys. This isn't going to be the first time we see him do it. He's going to do it multiple times throughout the course of his career if he ends up staying healthy. But an amazing game for Vic and an amazing reminder that we should not be overreacting to anybody's performance so far early in the season. There's going to be a regression to the mean. Things are going to come back to the way that they should be. As I said, we saw it or we're seeing it here with Tyrese Halliburton. And there are also some guys, as I said earlier, who are putting up some numbers that they probably have no business putting up and probably won't be putting them up for the entirety of the season. But amazing stuff here from Wembanyama. Hopefully this is the game that gets him back on track. He's had a couple of good games here back to back, but good to see him getting back into rhythm after somewhat of a slow, rocky start to his sophomore year. Are there going to continue to be some slumps here and there? Absolutely. Right? He's playing a different style of basketball. He's playing with a true point guard in Chris Paul, who has done an amazing job at finding him consistently out there on the floor. So there are going to continue to be some rocks in the road here for Wemby, but still an amazing game. And he is just going to continue to make this run at his first All-Star appearance and also hopefully his first All-NBA appearance as this season progresses.